my profession has been war photographer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have this profession anymore.
Okay.
It's not my profession anymore.
Now you're teaching mainly, right?
Today I don't care about my profession. It's not I don't have a profession. I
I see.
teach I teach today,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not a teacher. I make like lectures and so on and so on. But I
Okay.
think that one thing that I'm really today, more
Mm-hmm.
than ever, is an anarchist.
Okay.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm more than ever. I have always like since very early age being engaged in anarchism and so on. But like today more than ever, I'm
Mm.
an anarchist.
Yeah,
That
this is like a part of your identity.
it's part of who it's a very important is the pillar of what of how I see the world.
Mm. I see.
How I see the world, like the how I not just how I see the world, but how I act in the world, how I reflect about the world, and how I question the world, and the solutions that I find, both like individual solutions for my life and solutions that I try to find for the collective, let's say the small collective in my family, among my friends, but also like the ideas that I have for problems that might be
Mm.
wider. They come from this understanding, this way of understanding it.
Okay.
And it's a very, very specific way of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Right. Let's start. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Film Insiders. And today we have André Liohn. We met, I think, 1 month, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Like completely by chance, randomly. I just saw him like just leaving the premises of Isaac, and then I asked like Magnus, the guy who we had like at the last episode, who was he? And he told me. I got interested into you, and then we had a coffee, and here we are.
Yeah.
So yes, Andre, he was a war photographer, and he did photo collections like in war zones mainly.
I have like been working for 20 years
Mhm.
as a war photographer. Have a long career. It's been working in all the wars that had happened in the last 20 years.
Mhm.
Covered it for many important newspapers and magazines around the world, and also here in Norway. And I have like dedicated myself to war photography
Mm.
because I at some point in my life I believed that the method of war photography
Mhm.
was something that very essential, that we need war photographers to understand the world.
Mm.
And 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 then I saw the work of war photographers, and start going to war zones and becoming more and more involved with it. And then I dedicated myself very, very, very deep. I mean, extremely deep and in it.
Mm.
But today it's like after 20 years, I feel like it's time to do something else.
Mm.
Because I believe that whatever you do in your life, whatever you do, whatever, it can be, the most simple things. If you do it during a long time, and if you are interested in doing it very well, that people recognize you as someone that wants to take the things you are doing beyond the normal. At some point, it's your responsibility to put all together
Mhm.
and then to teach it, to teach how the next generation will continue the things that you have done.
Mm.
And because I believe very much in history, you know,
Yeah.
and history like in a very specific term as well, like history as something that we humans we produce. History is result of our interaction.
Mm.
History is a result of our failures, of our solutions, of our successes, everything. Humans, it wouldn't be history. The world, for example, the world wouldn't have history without humans. The world would be just the world. You understand?
Yeah.
Like we call it today, like, for example, if you see the planet, we say that there is the geological history. But even that, it needs us to understand it for it to become history. You understand?
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean, without us humans, history wouldn't exist. Like we are the ones producing history,
Mm.
and war photographers. It's a profession that didn't last very long. It's a profession that started very late
Mm-hmm.
in human history, and it's a profession that is dying very early in
Mm.
human history as well. But it started late, it's dying early. But then, even though it was, I'm very proud of have been like involved in some very important moments of war photography, and to have my work as part of this. Yeah,
I see. I see.
yeah.
Maybe we can go like back, like how did this all started out? Like, of course, there are other interviews going through that, as far as I've seen, and Wikipedia, etc., etc. But like, I saw, for example, that you started when you were 6. You got like a camera, like in your parents'
Wedding.
wedding, right? And then you stopped, and then you started again at 30.
Yeah, because I mean we have been just talking about like your a childhood experience that marks in your life, and then you bring this experience into your adulthood, like and that's for that day for me when my parents, my father and my mother, they decided that they would get married in the church.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean my family are not very religious.
Mm-hmm.
They're very superstitious, but they are not very like religious in the sense like in the ceremonial way, like going to the church, being a Catholic or Jewish or whatever. Like they are pretty much like secular, but they decided to be married in the church as well.
Mm.
And I was about 6 years old, and there was this church in Brazil. I come from Brazil. I'm Brazilian, and it's this place called Botucatu. And I remember that I wanted to go around the church. And this time, this is 1980 or 79. It's very a long time ago.
Mm.
And things were very like, in the church, you should behave, you know?
Yeah.
And I wasn't behaving. Like I was a child that just want to go around, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what was happening. Baby, for me, it was just like a big party, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of my mother, she had with her like a disposable camera, a Kodachrome or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and she gave it to me. And today I know that the camera, because I asked it like, "Hey, where are these pictures?" Right? And said, "Oh, the camera had already been used."
Okay.
You know, it wasn't. I didn't make any picture because they gave me the camera that was a disposable camera
That was already used.
already used just for me to quiet down, right?
Yes.
And but with the camera in my hand, I start going everywhere I wanted because I said, "Oh, well, now I have a camera. Then I have to go back near the priest. I have to take pictures of the flowers. I want to take pictures of what it is in the, you know, in the saloon or whatever." And that feeling that with a camera in your hand, you could go wherever you want, reminded my mind for a very, very long time. You know, I always remember this sensation of having a camera in your hand and going wherever you want.
Mm.
But yet, like photography never seemed to be possible to me
Okay.
because at the time, like photography was something that you had to have money for making it.
Hmm.
You know, equipment was still today is not cheap,
Yeah,
but
it's much cheaper now than
it's
it was
much
with the
cheaper
film.
now
Yes.
than it was before. But at the time, like I didn't have any money, so all of that seemed to be completely impossible to me. You understand?
Hmm.
So I never actually even worried about photographing
Mm.
because I accepted that I would never photograph, right?
Hmm.
And then I turned 30 years old. And then I made some money.
Hmm.
I worked. I had a work, a profession. Like I was working here in Norway for a company in a place close to here, Klæbu,
Hmm.
and I was traveling a lot. You know, at the time, my work was to represent this company in many countries. Like I had to travel to Asia, South America, whole Europe, North America to present the product of this company, you know. And once I was in Singapore and I decided to buy a camera in Singapore.
Hmm.
And at the time, I had the money to buy the camera, though. So I bought the camera and I had a very important relationship with a woman or with a person here at this time. And we broke up. We broke up. So then I had like in my hands both the camera and the emotions that combined. And then I think that, um, I somehow, it was natural for me combining the experience that I was having at that moment with the equipment that I had at disposal to use
Mm.
at the time. And then photography was born in my life again as an important thing. I
Hmm.
wasn't photographing just because, because today is very easy for people to photograph just because.
Yeah, because it's much more accessible.
Yeah, with their mobile phone or
Yes.
whatever, or you have the platforms like, Instagram and all the other things. At this time, it wasn't like, Instagram or nothing. And all the pictures that you did, you had time still, like, even if it was already like digital, it wasn't anymore
Yeah, it wasn't film.
film,
Yes.
but yet it was like, for example, you to buy a hard disk or a computer for you to save all the material that it was expensive and then difficult. It was boring, right?
Yeah.
I still today I'm not interested in have too many pictures.
Hmm.
I want to have the pictures that I think I need. I want, you
Yeah.
know. Still today for me, like photographing is like a process of thought, experiencing like I feel, I think, I photograph, you know. And but today, no. I mean, people they don't think, they don't feel, they just photograph.
Mm.
So and then photography became like more and more and more important, more and more meaningful, more and more um explaining more and more about who I was.
Okay. What was the main things that you were photographing in the beginning before the war zones?
I think that the thing that I was photographing there, like for example, let's say if you are here in this room and you photograph that empty table, you
Hmm.
know, and then you photograph like that flower,
Hmm.
whatever. What are you photographing? If you want to photograph it, not that you photograph because it is here,
Hmm.
but let's say, for example, if you are in this room alone and you have to photograph something, you have to express something of you because you need, and you are in this room alone because you don't want to go out. You feel like, outside today, you don't have energy, you don't have you need to be with yourself, by yourself. Basically, what you are photographing is loneliness,
Yeah.
you know? And the things that I was photographing in the very beginning is not like the things that were in the pictures that was important. Was the process of what I was photographing.
Mm.
First of all was this loneliness. I was photographing it. And and then since when I when I overcame the loneliness, or still in the loneliness but beyond the room, I think I start photographing the emptiness, like the wideness of everything. And
Yeah,
at
can
some
I
Mhm.
intrude here? That's really funny because I'm going through that at the moment.
Yeah,
Like at this on this exact thing.
yeah,
Most of my photography the first 2 years when I started was about loneliness, and now I'm going through the emptiness. I
yeah.
remember like last month I went like to outside before I was about to go to Greece. It was a Saturday, and the whole city was empty.
Hmm.
And I'm just sitting there, and I'm seeing all those benches that they're empty and full of snow, and I feel like, oh my god, like what is that?
Yeah.
Like all this unfulfilled potential. This is how I experienced. And then I was like, okay, like maybe I can photograph this. And then I just went like to photograph like this feeling of this a city that is empty and there is no potential. That something could happen, but it's not happening.
Well,
Like
this is the thing, that because you are confronting yourself against something that is not yet your reality,
yeah, yeah,
you know.
absolutely, absolutely.
Because, for example, when your reality, when you are when you understand that my reality today is loneliness, let's say, for one reason or another, you know, or wideness or whatever, so when I overcame like this wideness, this loneliness and something,
Mm-hmm.
I started to become to look for the other.
Mm.
I had to find the other. Who is the other? You know, and the other is the people that I photograph. And then, and when you start photographing the other, you have to respect the other.
Mm.
You know, and respect. It's a very um wide understanding of what it means. It's not respecting it's not fear the other,
Mm-hmm.
because if you fear the other, you are still not photographing the other.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be like beyond your fear.
Mm.
And then, like, you sometimes the most respectful thing that you can do for the other is to challenge the other,
I see what you're saying.
you know
Mm-hmm.
and but this is like, I mean, and then I think that most people, they want to be in this moment.
Mm.
Let's say, for example, I start photographing and then I want to be in this moment, but they didn't go through all the phases. I'm not saying that everybody has to go through of these
Specific phases,
specific
but through
phases.
his phases, he needs to go through his
I
own.
mean, this is
Yeah.
individual.
Yeah.
This is individual, like, and but the thing is, like, how do you understand, how do you visualize, and how do you understand your process?
Mm-hmm.
And then, for example, if you understand your process, the picture that one day you took of an empty bench in the city will have another meaning for you than, for example, as you say, as an unrealized potential.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you are not comparing yourself anymore.
Mm,
You know, you are going through like a deep experience of self development
mm,
that will, I mean, it won't work as a photographer because, and then in the end, photography becomes just like the method, the ceremonial thing, you know,
mm.
is the ceremony of it. Because what you are actually experiencing is far beyond than that.
I see what you're saying.
It's
Yeah.
far beyond than that.
Yeah. I this is
Mhm.
because most of, for example, in my case, like most of my friends, they think I'm a photographer, and then I'm telling them, yes, like that's a interesting way of putting it, but I'm catching my camera every out once in a month, sometimes two, maybe it's every day, but like it's not like I'm doing it all the time obsessively. It needs to come to me. Like I need to be there for it. I cannot just do it for the sake of doing it. It- I guess it's different because when you start out, you are always like through this. Oh, I need to do it good, and many people go like through this proximal development phase. But I think when it comes to photography, at least from my experience, you can tell me about your experience on that. Is you need to be there for it. Otherwise, for me, I feel like I'm. It's not like I feel like there is no point. I cannot just grab a camera because I'm a photographer per se.
Do you play an instrument?
I play the piano a little bit.
If
Yes,
you play the piano, let's say, uh, you play well or do you play just a little bit?
a little bit.
A little bit.
Yes.
Let's say, for example, even if you play just a little bit, okay, do you understand how different it is to play a little bit and play nothing?
If I understand the difference between the
Yeah, like
two.
for example, when you have the piano in front of you, you know that you are producing more than just blam blam blam.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if you are playing like the simplest thing that you ever know, okay, you know that you are not just doing blam blam blam. You are communicating with the instrument,
Hmm.
okay. But let's say, for example, if you go beyond it, and
Beyond this level of just the basics.
like you are not doing blum blum blum
Okay.
anymore, but you are not just like dingy 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 either. You start to become like, for example, I know you start because there are many people like amazing musicians. They don't just hear music. Most of them they can see music. You know, they can see how, for example, the world is made of music. Like, for example, they can hear like what for us looks like, for example, a sound of just a car, but they know the tone of it. They know, they start to understand how the sound that for most of people are just noise has a symphony in it.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
They are very rare people.
Hmm.
These are very rare people, but you can find many examples of them.
Hmm.
Okay. And these people, they start to understand why they want to do music, because music becomes some way that, for example, they express their beauty, their the process they'll have in life, the way they communicate and everything. Like music becomes a language,
Hmm.
you know because, for example, we are now here using English to communicate.
Yeah.
For example, we understand each other. You speak Greek, I speak Portuguese, right?
Yes.
But let's say, for example, if I start speaking Portuguese with you,
Hmm.
or you start speaking Greek with me,
Yes.
for me, even if you understand what you're saying, for me, it will sound like as just sound.
Yeah.
You understand? Like it's not yet a language. But let's say you have to become like, music becomes your language, that's the way you speak. That's the language you use to communicate. And this is the same with photography.
Yeah.
You know, it is the same with photography. you photography becomes a language.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for example, I today, when I see a picture or I see like a selection of pictures that you have made done, I will I will understand how well do you speak photography.
How well I speak this language and in which levels as well.
Do you understand?
Because I have a feeling here that like with your photography there are other levels.
Yeah,
Like there are, for example, historical levels also. There are
yeah,
other levels of reading that maybe if I'm not aware of them,
yeah.
I won't be able to read those things.
And I will understand like what is holding you back in your photography.
Mm-hmm.
For example, let's say if it is fear, if it is you are anxious, if you are lazy, you know, if you want to really learn how to speak photography, or if you want to do like dang 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 just because you say, oh, I play a little bit piano,
Yeah.
you know it's the same. I play a little bit photography. I think that, for example, if you accept, and there is one thing that it's amazing with photography.
Mm-hmm.
It's so amazing that photography is very simple. You push a button, you make photography.
Yeah.
Is basically that's it. Because let's say, for example, if I photograph that table again,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I didn't go there and the table is there already.
Mm.
I didn't have to produce the table to photograph the table.
Yes.
So if I go photograph in the center of the city is there already. I don't have to produce a city to photograph it.
Mm-hmm.
I, as a war photographer, the life stories of the people that I photograph is there already.
Mm.
I don't have to kill anyone. You
To get
understand?
the picture. Yes.
For example, and reality is already there. What is not there yet is the understanding of reality, which
Mm.
is what is not there yet is history.
Yeah.
You know, let's say, for example, there is philosophical question, like if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear, how could you prove that the fall of the tree made some sound?
Mm-hmm.
We suppose it made some sound, right? But no one was there to say, well, it was sound. And let's say if someone is suffering in a war and no one is there
To understand, to
to
know. Yeah.
to understand that someone is suffering, how can you prove that someone really suffered in a war? That's exactly what they try to do in Gaza now.
Mm.
That's why they try to keep. They tried. No, they made. They kept all the foreign photographers out of Gaza. I tried to go to Gaza.
Really, and they didn't allow you.
No, the
A
photographer.
single one. They didn't
No
allow a single photographer in
photography
Gaza.
in Gaza. The only pictures, but yet Gaza has been extremely well or widely visually documented. I don't know if you ever heard about Theodor Adorno.
No.
Theodor Adorno was a German philosopher,
Mm-hmm.
and when Auschwitz was discovered,
Mm-hmm.
because like Auschwitz happened during the Second World War, but no one knew about Auschwitz. The Russians have had to arrive in Krakow and then arrive in Auschwitz, that is outside of Krakow, and then see the concentration camps and see, oh my God, what happened? I mean, wow, right?
Yeah.
So no one imagined that we humans would ever be able to do something as horrible as Auschwitz.
Mm-hmm.
So Theodor Adorno said, after Auschwitz, to write poetry is an act of barbarism. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, and then people start to question what he was saying. That why shall we live without poetry in the future? Is poetry dead? And he never answered the question. And people start to reflecting about the answers, and there are many answers. I have my own answer.
Mm-hmm.
My own answer for that is that we learned about Auschwitz through the stories that people told us. The people who experienced Auschwitz, when they came out, they told their stories.
Mm.
They explained, because there was not something that we were there, so we don't know what happened. Like, the pyramids. You go to the pyramids, say, okay, that's a pyramid, but we have no idea how they built the pyramids.
Yeah.
No, people survived Auschwitz and they could tell the stories. And then imagine, like, for example, what can we as humans still explain to the world after Auschwitz? What do we as humans need to understand about who we are after the stories that have been told of Auschwitz? I think that, and then I think that if we want to tell something about who we are after Auschwitz, we need to go beyond Auschwitz. And this is barbaric, in a
Mm.
bad and a good way. And I think that, for example, with the image today, Gaza is the same, because Gaza has been documented by the victims. The victims, they photographed what is happening, the pain that they went through, and it has been documented by the people who produced the pain. Hamas, when Hamas invaded Israel and killed the civilians, Hamas filmed it itself. They filmed themselves doing it. And these Israeli soldiers that committed crimes in Gaza, they filmed themselves doing it. So I think today, for example, let's say, for example, I'm a foreigner. What would, if I went to to Gaza today, what would I have photographed that them themselves didn't photograph already? If my photography would have any meaning in Gaza, I would have to experience Gaza beyond Gaza. Do you understand? Which is possibly impossible. Possibly, no, it is impossible. I mean, how can I, for example, compare myself to a person who survived Auschwitz?
Yeah.
How can I compare myself to a person who survived and documented Gaza, photographed Gaza?
Mm.
I mean, and then this challenge, if I understand this challenge, I understand who I am.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I understand in which place am I in the world right now? Who am I?
I see. I
You
see.
know?
I guess what you're saying here is that there is no way that you can experience the realities
But
of
yet,
those.
the photography I produce is still important.
Yeah, it's still important, but at the same time, here, what I understand is that there is a new trend coming up because of the
It's a
like
new historical moment.
a new historical moment when it comes like to cameras, because there it is more accessible. Like the people who are into war, they can document for themselves.
No,
So
no,
no,
no, no.
this is like a question I had.
Yeah,
Let me form the questions
yeah,
about
yeah.
that. The question here is like when it's so accessible, cameras, phones, etc., like it is much easier like to photograph. Like I'm guessing there is too much to ask about what is being photographed and how it's presented by the people who are photographing this,
Yeah.
and how important it is to have like a war photographer, a third eye, that it's not so much integrate into the realities, to try to, because I guess you're not trying to push like your own like propaganda if you're like a third party.
Um, and I mean, because we have to remember thing like history. What I'm talking here is about history,
Mhm.
okay? And the history will happen even without cameras. like the collection of history. We have collected history before without cameras.
Yeah.
We have collected history before without film cameras or TV channels or without internet, even without written language. Humans that we have produced history for a very long time, you know. So we don't need exactly one specific tool to collect and produce history. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's not a thing. Uh, but however, the tool that we use to collect history has an enormous meaning in how we understand history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's of course different. For example, if you have Goya, Francisco Goya, who painted was one of the first painters that photographed, that painted war,
Mm-hmm.
like real war. Not like a heroic war, like you see all the general
Yeah, like with
that
the flag,
yeah,
the
with a
American flags.
flag,
Yes.
whatever. No, he painted normal human beings being assassinated in war,
Mm.
right? So Goya, for example, it's different. A painting of Goya and a picture that father in Gaza makes of his dead son or daughter, or a picture that I make with my camera. So the tools are very different, and so these are has a huge impact on how we understand history.
Yeah, the medium, it actually affects the
The
way
medium
we.
affects the way.
Yeah.
Marshall McLuhan, the media is the message.
Mm-hmm.
This is very important. However, like today, the idea that we don't need, for example, it's very common that uh, almost everybody's against journalists, because there was one point in history, like in time, where people they needed journalists to have to communicate to the world. They because the journalists, the professional journalists, were the ones who had access to the platforms to produce newspapers, television channels, radios, magazines. We had access to it. So, for example, you had like maybe you are too young to remember him, but like Bin Laden, you know who Bin Laden was,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Bin Laden, he had, for example, he was in Afghanistan in a cave, and he had to say, "Oh, I hate these journalists, but I have to welcome a journalist, Robert Fisk, to come here in this cave in Afghanistan and give Robert Fisk one interview, so I will give my message out. I don't like him,
Mm-hmm.
but I need him.
Yeah.
So I know that Robert Fisk will be critical to the things I say, but anyhow, I need my voice out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Today, people they don't do that. They have like the internet, right? So
Yeah.
why would I talk to a journalist if I can communicate directly with the public that supports me?
Yeah,
For
but
for
I
example,
guess then you eliminate
the
the
critical the
critical part.
criticism,
Yeah, the criticism. Yeah.
And then, for example, let's say, for example, again, if you see a people's victim, and the victim is photographing his pain or her pain, right? And why would this person open like this intimacy of allow someone from outside to photograph your pain if you yourself you can say, listen, that's how I feel pain. You know what I mean? You can say, but you don't need anyone to judge your pain or to put your pain in context. You don't, I mean, if you feel pain, you don't want any, you don't care about context to your pain. You want your pain to end.
Yeah.
You want your pain to end.
Yeah.
So this is something that today, for example, and then for example, let's say, for example, if you say, listen, my pain is because the media is corrupted, and the media is corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the media lets to is corrupted to the it's super corrupted. And but yet is what shall we do? Like close the newspapers? I think that we need to know that the media is corrupted, understand that it is corrupted, and be able to criticize the media, and but yet being able to take the things that we need from it,
Mm.
and this is how it works. Like, and today, like for example, Netanyahu. Let's say, for example, Netanyahu.
Mm-hmm.
He's a international wanted criminal. The international court, you know, they want Netanyahu arrested,
Mm-hmm.
but he has a Instagram profile. He's there
Yeah.
promoting how good he is,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably like millions of people following him. Trump went so far that he said, "You know what? I want to have my own social media."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who do you think that is telling Trump in his social media through how it calls? Say, "Hey, Trump, that's not good to say, man." I mean, he's the owner of
Yeah.
it. No one's criticizing. I'm like Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
Who will ever censor Elon Musk? No one will censor Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
Who will ever censor Mark Zuckerberg? No one will do that.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, you understand? So, when we see that all these feeling of freedom or possibilities or whatever, we have
Mm.
to be aware that no, it has nothing to do with liberty or freedom or no, we are constrained very much today.
Mm.
Because, for example, I'm not just constrained in how I see, because, like, for example, let's say I have been in situations where the media, let's say, everybody were against the media.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I had a camera in my hand, I have been attacked. Because, oh, you are lying, you are liars, and they attacked me.
Mm.
So not let's say for example, I just been like few days ago I came back from Ukraine.
Yeah.
If you go to Ukraine, they know when you come in, where you are, who you work for. They read your articles. They have like a censorship. They have access to everything.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say for example, if I worked, let's say for in a local newspaper here.
They would know.
Oh yeah, they know
Yeah.
today. But like a few years ago, they would have to come to the city and know specifically which day I published something and buy that newspaper so they could read it,
No.
But with the internet, no. If you publish one thing, that thing is there forever and accessible to, like today with Google Translate. In 2 seconds, they can translate what you have been written, even if you write it in the, I don't know, in Nepalese, archaic Nepalese.
Yeah.
They will have like Google Translate will translate archaic Nepalese to Ukrainian in 2 seconds. And they will say, oh, see, André is not our ally. He's criticizing us.
I see.
So, so you are not free anymore. Let's say, for example, I have been critical to the war in Ukraine since the beginning
Mm-hmm.
because I've been working in Ukraine for many years.
Yeah.
And I've been critical to the war in Ukraine, said this is a war that didn't have to happen, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And at the time, everybody, no, no, no. How can you say that? Russia invaded Ukraine. I say, of course, Russia invaded Ukraine. I know Putin is a criminal. But do you think that a war against Russia will solve a problem? You know,
Mm.
it's like, a lot of innocent people are gonna die. And today we see that, you know. So for a long, and then, then you not just say things that you are excluded from the debate,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, everybody wants to have a confirmation of our beliefs.
Let me go somewhere else now.
Yeah.
It's connected to what you said previously. When it comes like to respecting the person like you're capturing. I guess here a question I would like to ask you is, how do you position yourself when you're like in a war zone and people are suffering, getting shot, like a mother just lost her child, maybe her entire family, and not only a child, and then she's going through whatever she's going through. There's no way that you can understand this pain. Maybe you don't even want to know this pain. And then you're in front of that
Yeah.
and you're about to photograph, you're ready to hit the click. How do you position yourself, firstly, like emotionally, and also in the space? Like, what are you doing? Like, are you trying to be like almost like trying to detach yourself and try to be as minimal as you can with your way that you are approaching the way that you move there, or you are kind of pushing to go there to photograph this, like to go close? Like, how do you go about also emotionally? What is it happening in you when photographing these realities?
Yeah. You know, I think that war photography has three pillars that are very important to to defend, to accomplish. The first pillar is that photography happens. You make war photography there at the time and place where things happen. You know, you don't make war photography far from there, after or before things happen. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be at the place and the time to make it. The second pillar is that you have to have intellectual proximity to what you are photographing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand the problem that's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
Why is how things are happening, why they are happening. Because for example, you don't go to Ukraine without knowing about Ukraine.
Of course.
You have to know what's happening in Ukraine, history of Ukraine, how things happened, things like that. You have to inform yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the last pillar is that you have to be emotionally close to it. Because you have to understand that you are seeing people, you know, human beings
Mm-hmm.
in situations that are very, very important in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are losing something, someone, you, you know, and so you don't produce like war pornography, violence pornography, just photograph violence for violence. Okay. So if you have this physical proximity, this intellectual proximity, and this emotional proximity,
Mm-hmm.
you develop your ethics, how your ethics about how do you work,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And this, because if you miss anything of that, like for example, if you start photographing fake things, fake, you are not there in the place in the moment that happened. And I can give you an example. There was an Italian photographer years ago, Marco Vernaschi, his name. I denounced him. You
Okay.
know, he was
Yes.
photographing dead bodies of Ugandan children. Do you know about that?
I know the name. Okay.
He was digging up bodies of children in Uganda to set up pictures of children that had been assassinated.
Yes, I remember he also paid
He
families.
paid families.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyhow, so he wasn't in the place and in the moment. So his ethics were like, he knew that children in Uganda were being assassinated, blah 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 blah. He may even have cried. You know what I mean? Let's say, for example, he may have had the two second pillars, but he didn't had the first pillar. So his ethics were compromised. Whatever, so your ethics, you have to develop your ethics, sustain your ethics in things that's how it has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have been working a lot along doctors and medics, personnel, nurses in war
Mm-hmm.
zones. And the work with along beside these doctors have teach me like many things. Like for example, let's say for example, if you are a doctor and you have like to treat someone that has a some problem with his arm, you have if you are a doctor, you take the arm and you push the arm. Is it painful here? And say no. Okay, push a little longer. Is it painful here? Yeah. Push a little longer. Say, ah, and then the doctor will understand.
Yeah,
You know, the normal would be that doing like this.
hmm
But if you come like this and it's unsustainable, the pain is, you can sustain the pain already here. The doctor can understand the gravity of the problem that it has to be treated in your arm. Maybe
yeah,
there has to, you know, some relaxation, whatever.
hmm
Maybe we have to cut your arm down, off. You know what I mean? So I think photography has the same principle. You have to stretch, but you have to know why you are stretching.
hmm
You understand?
yeah, I understand.
It's not a problem that you stretch the limits.
hmm
You have to. You have to stretch the limits when you make a photography. But you have to know why are you stretching these limits. If you don't have these pillars that I just told you or many more, you know, this is something that I use myself to produce my photography. But if you can stretch further, you have to see what is not normal here.
hmm
When I photograph, for example, a mother crying because she lost her daughter or her baby, whatever, her family, I want people to understand that this is not normal. It shouldn't be like that. Like an arm. Oh, sorry.
No, no.
Like an arm, you know, that mother should be living happy with her baby. That mother should be able to develop herself as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, as a person, as a human being, you know, as someone that could s- go, you know, produce beauty.
Yeah.
And it's not, when I photographed a mother crying, I want people to understand this is not normal.
hmm
Is this is abnormal.
Yeah.
The problem is how people will understand the picture.
hmm
You know, I have no control about how people will understand the picture. And this process is another one. It's a new process.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. But for example, when this happens, a mother loses like her children. Like, what is it going in you there? Like, are you freaking
It's
out?
pain,
Like, you're also going like through the
of
pain. You,
course.
yeah.
Of course. You know, I go, and you know, like for example, I have been meeting like friends of mine, photographers, when they say, "Oh, I don't want to change the world." You know, I never wanted to change the world. And say, then why to photograph?
Mm. Yeah, I remember you said that to me when we had the coffee. I still remember the exact sentence and the words you used. You said that as photographers, we're striving to for the impossibility.
The impossible.
The impossible, yes. I would like to ask you about that. What did you mean about that? If we can delve into that, because it's relevant to what you just said, changing the word.
I mean, if you are not, you know, because let's say today, you know, for example, let's say, have you ever had in your arms a baby and come to close to a window with a baby in your arms and try to explain the baby or observe the baby observing outside? Have you ever done that?
No.
If you ever do this like for example, if you have a baby in your arms, you come to a window and you see how the babe observes outside the window, you know, and then you understand like it's amazing because the baby has no idea what is a world, what is the world. The baby knows that he's with you, you know, that you are his father or his brother or someone that he can trust, you know. And then everything that is outside, the baby has no idea what a car is. He may be very fascinated by cars, or maybe very fascinated by the sounds, by what things do, how they look like, is this exciting thing, but has no idea why a tractor is a tractor, why a car is a car, why asphalt is asphalt, why the tree is the tree, has no idea. But at some point, like for example, you are 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time in your life that you had no idea about the things you are seeing in front of you? You don't remember.
Yeah,
You today already experiences the world as if you forever knew what the world is.
that's true. Yes.
You look at the car to a car and say, "Oh, of course that's a car."
Mm-hmm.
You look like to a table, of course there's a table. And you look to someone crying because they lost their children in a war, of course that's war. You lose, we lost, and this is natural. The capacity to not knowing, or we think that we lost this capacity. When you see pain, you say, of course that's pain. Oh, of course that's poverty. Of course this is, hate. We already have embedded in our minds the answer for things.
Yeah.
And today, for example, if you go back in time, people would have embedded everything that was embedded in their mind, like the Middle Ages, for example. It would be religion. Everything that you see around you, you would have like a religious explanation for it. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't think, religion was there, We don't have to change it. And then it
Yeah.
took some time. The Enlightenment came, and people started saying, oh, no, reason,
Yeah. Logic.
reason.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, why is something happening? Oh, let's use reason to explain it, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
The same way that people use religion to explain, then they start using reason, and reason became a new religion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Today we are using like science. Everything is science. Like, for example, every time, like, oh, the brain neuroscientists have proven that our brains work in this way. Every time that you are happy, and let's say, for example, let's say, for example, what difference makes how how our brain works when we are sad? If a person is sad because he didn't buy the latest car, or if the person is sad because they just lost a child in a war.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It makes no difference if the brain how the brain works.
Yeah.
What the difference is how what is making us sad? Am I sad because I didn't buy the latest iPhone? Or am I sad because I couldn't buy food to my children?
I see.
You know? So this is something that we don't question ourselves anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We think that sadness is sadness.
Yeah.
We think that happiness is happiness. We think that poverty is poverty, that pain is pain, as if it was something that we just have, and it's not, you know? And this is how we photographers, this is important. This is where we photographers, we start to become special
Mm.
because we deal with seeing, you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
And if we don't see, like, for example, if you are seeing something and you are just photographing it, it makes no difference. As again, you go photograph in the center of the city. You don't have to build a city to photograph. The city is there already.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? I don't have to go to war to make a war to photograph war. The war is there already. The point is why, what, how, what do you see?
Also, but when, for example, you're saying about changing the word, like this implies to, at least to my head, that you're also implying that through this photograph, you're aiming for a transcending of this reality, of a hope that this reality could potentially change through the understanding of this reality.
Maybe the picture won't transcend anything.
Okay, okay, but
Okay.
maybe the, is it correlated though with the understanding
Yeah.
part?
Maybe the picture will not transcending nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Because the picture, what is a picture? Again, I told you, like photography is super easy. You push a button and the boom, the picture is made.
Yeah.
How can you transcend anything? Because, like, for example, you are limited by the technology that you are using.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go beyond the camera.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The camera cannot go beyond the camera.
Mm-hmm.
The camera is the camera. You get it?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we change. We humans change. We start thinking different
Through the picture,
through the experience,
through the experience of this reality.
you
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
through the experience. Like what we are doing here, like
Mm-hmm.
right now. We could be talking about the very superficial thing, you know, making a podcast or whatever. That, well, now, oh, this is a war photographer, André Liohn. Hey, André Liohn, are you traumatized? Yes, yes, whatever, blah, 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 you know, blah, blah, blah. But
Yes.
no, I mean, I wouldn't, you know, why?
Yeah.
Why? If you want to do this here, you know, if you want to do this here,
Mm-hmm.
do it. It's impossible. Do it aiming the impossible.
Yeah.
You know, what is impossible? The not possible. You know, I mean, for example, you know, I don't think it people would think that was possible to use reason. Like, I mean, if you came to a middle age a person from the Middle Ages, even if there were many intelligent people there, and if they say, listen, imagine the world beyond religion,
Mm-hmm.
for them it would be completely impossible.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have, like, epistemologically, they wouldn't have the capacity of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. To
And then
even conceptualize this reality.
no, it was a
Yeah.
man, that's impossible to understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's impossible, but somehow it became possible. And then people, like, for example, you know, why Darwin happened just there, the time that Darwin happened. Animals were everywhere. It was not like, for example, Darwin was the first person in the world to meet a turtle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People knew turtles, you know, people knew birds, people knew, you know, lions, whatever. We knew them. We had been living among animals forever. Why then just Darwin were able to put together a theory that today we can explain the evolution of the species?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Do you
Yeah.
understand? Why was Newton? I mean, you know, why Newton? I mean, we had gravity. Gravity has been in this planet for a very long time. You know, basically, we have life in this planet because of gravity.
Mm-hmm.
From the amoeba to us, the amoeba was able to survive in this planet because there was gravity. You know what I mean? So gravity has been here forever. Why just Newton were able to actually observe gravity?
Yeah.
You know,
What was like
he had to think different
yeah, what was the factor that made him being able
to
to
make it the concept
to
of
make
it.
it a concept, and also to be able to receive this, you know,
Exactly.
because first you have to be able to receive this. You
Yeah.
kind of have to hear the music, you know. Nietzsche
Yeah.
used to say that those who don't listen the music, they think that for those who listen the music, they think they're
Yeah.
crazy, you know. And
So
I tend to believe that this is extremely true for a lot of reality simultaneously, because as
Mhm.
humans there is no way that we can like communicate with all of the reality simultaneously.
Mm.
When we're talking with a person, we don't know what he's receiving, and this a lot of times puts like a limit to how much close you can go to this person, because you don't know what is the music that he hears at the moment. And
Yeah.
this is not epistemologically, like you cannot ever like explain that with science. But what in the hell, like, are you gonna how in the hell are you gonna explain
Yeah.
this? And this is why I don't believe that science is the way to understand reality.
Well,
It's
science is
one
just one
way
is one of the things that will help us
to understand some parts.
some parts of reality.
Yeah,
But the risk is how, for example, and when we do not understand, and when science becomes insufficient for us to understand ourselves, then we blame science,
yeah,
and then we blame reason. Well, for example, like, for example, how could Auschwitz happen
yeah,
with reason?
yeah.
You know, or how can Gaza be happening with reason and science
Mhm.
and politics? And today, because today the bigger thing that we have today is not science, is politics.
Yeah,
Like, imagine that today we live in a world that has elected people as politicians, and they have access to information, to vaccines, to everything, to they have access to finance. Because, for example, today we can make money without, like, for nothing, fiat money.
yeah,
We could have access to we have access to finance, we have to access to vaccines, we have access to tools that are, would give us unlimited power. But yet, with all of this, we create Gaza.
yeah.
And people, if you ask, like, anyone, hey, let's change Gaza, what can I do?
Mm.
The feeling of powerlessness,
Yeah. How small you are
you
toward
know,
in the face of this reality.
and then I think that when I meet a photographer saying, I never wanted to change the world, and I say, well, then,
Yeah, don't do it.
why?
Yeah,
You don't do it then.
yeah.
If you are a doctor, if you are a teacher, if you are building houses, if you are cleaning, let's say, for example, listen, for example, when it was COVID for
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago, and if you had like a cleaning job in a hospital, if you go to your hospital to clean the floor, knowing that you can become contaminated, no, and if you don't want to change the world, why doing it?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. Yes.
I'm just cleaning but if you don't clean the floor, the doctors won't be able to treat the patients.
Yeah.
And even the doctor, if this doctor don't want to change the world, like save lives, why is this doctor going? This doctor has children, a family, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that we have to get back the idea of, I'm not saying here, okay? Maybe think people may think that let's find the big causes that we can fight for. I'm not talking about that. I
Mm-hmm.
don't believe in big causes.
Yeah.
I don't believe that you have to sacrifice yourself for something big.
Yeah.
I think that you have to do something that is good for you, like, you know, uh, yet, like, when you do something that's good for you, that becomes good for other people. Like, what I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
you go beyond. I don't think, because it's very easy today, like, for example, convince people that, oh, you die for your
For a
country,
cause, for a
for
higher
a
cause.
higher
Uh-huh.
cause. No, no. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, there's a book, Dostoevsky in Manhattan.
Okay.
Dostoevsky, Manhattan. Oh my God, André something.
Mm-hmm.
This book is amazing because it talks like, for example, because Dostoevsky, the brother Karamazov,
Mm-hmm.
there is a phrase of Ivan, one of the characters there, that says that if there is no God, everything is permitted,
Yeah.
right? But it is on the contrary. It's exactly because there is God that everything is permitted.
Okay.
L-
Clue me
you-
in on that.
Because, for example, the people who flew the flights in the World Trade Center,
Mm-hmm.
they did it because God allowed them to do it.
I see what you're saying.
You know,
Yeah.
let's say, for example, when and then they can do it automatic. They put in the automatic, right? So they were doing it for a higher cause.
Mm.
You know,
But I would argue here that this is a perverted idea of God. This is,
whatever.
yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
perverted for you, but not for him.
Yeah.
And in the end of the day, they did it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's say for example, if you could meet this person just before going,
Yeah.
and say, man, I know. Let's say you could fly back in time. What would you use your time for? Trying to convince him, hey, listen, this is a perverted idea of God? Or would you go to the police and say, listen, that guy is going to go on board on that plane and he's going to fly that plane in the towers and he's going to kill a lot of people? I would do that because, I mean, you are not able to convince anyone that, listen, this is a perverted idea of God.
I don't think with reason, the only thing I'm guessing you could do is just to make him extremely angry. I'm speculating that this would
Yeah.
have him because then you're preaching. There is one, I don't remember her name. She's like a documentarist here in Norway that she did a documentary about. She made like a speech back in the day, and then she got like a lot of death threats from like some white fundamentalists, like in the U.S. And she got interested to why this happened, and then she went like to the US to research why those people send those like messages. And then it's so surreal to see like a person like of her color surround herself with those people, and because she was so human about this thing, those people, even if they were white supremacists, they kind of accepted her. Like, and then by the end of the documentary, she kind of converted two or three people, like throughout the documentary.
Yeah.
And
Y-
I think the way that she did it is she kind of like tried to reach the person behind the belief, you know,
this is for me looking for the possible.
the
I'm looking
possible.
for the impossible.
Okay.
The impossible is that I somehow today I accept that we live in the way we live. I accept that I will never see the changes that I am aiming to in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I accept that I will experience the world with the problems that I looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for a new human being that in the future they may try to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about, like, I don't think that we can dialogue with racists.
Mm.
For example, I cannot, for example, I don't think that a racist will be, um, if I convince one racist not to be racist, I have saved the world. I don't think that.
Mm.
I think that in my lifetime, we will have to deal with racists. But I believe that if we reflect about racism
Mm-hmm.
instead, deep enough, one day we can overcome racism. You
I
understand?
see. Yeah.
And I don't think that this is gonna happen. I go to for the impossible.
I see. I see.
You know, I
Yeah.
think that racists today we have to deal with them as for today,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
as for today. And because, for example, what is utopia?
Mm-hmm.
You were Greek.
Yeah. Utopia, like
You
the
know you.
perfect state of.
Oh, well, utopia means out of place.
Yes.
If you get the word out, the
Yeah.
topography out of the place.
Yeah.
It's not here.
Yeah.
Utopia is not here. And I think that utopia is exactly like that. You understand that it's not here, but you see aiming it. It's possible to observe it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see how many phases there are between you and
And this reality, this,
in this reality.
yeah.
And you know that it's so far that it's not. It's in my lifetime. I can't get there.
Mm-hmm.
But I know it is possible. But if you don't overcome the limitations of today, the limitations of tomorrow, then people in the future they will have to start from where
Have,
you
yeah.
there is no progress.
I have a question here. Like it's pretty close to what we're discussing. Uh, like you're coming from Brazil, like
Brazil.
yeah, which at least statistically is one of the most violent places in the world. If there is any connection between why you're doing your photography with your childhood, from the capacity of like, okay, like my childhood was traumatic enough, and then you find like you can more easily understand like realities that you are capturing, for example, in war zones. I don't know if I
Yeah,
framed it
yeah,
correctly.
yeah, you
Yeah.
did. My childhood was extreme violent,
Okay.
extremely violent. I come from an extreme violent place,
Mm-hmm.
and with a lot of physical, environmental, uh, social, and moral violence. All of sorts of violence were there.
Mm-hmm.
Where I grew up with in this place with social violence, poverty, with moral violence, where people they had to the morals were basically like surviving. They had to survive. It was like all the sorts of violence that you can imagine were there. But I had to, the problem when we understand Brazil is like, or Brazil or any place, anywhere, is when we go back, we have to go back to what we have been talking. When you look a table, you see a table and you are happy with that. Or when you see sadness is sadness, you don't make differentiation if the person is sad because he didn't buy the iPhone or because he didn't buy food for their children.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there is one thing that people they do not understand very much about Brazil is that Brazil is the result of violence. Brazil was created under violence. Like when the Europeans came to Brazil for the first time, they were violent against the local population,
Mm-hmm.
like the indigenous people. The Europeans were very violent. That's how they dominated the land.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, they were very violent because they had to enslave Africans to bring to Brazil as slaves. Okay. So this is also, again, one of the worst violence you can commit against someone.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, like, for example, I'm white. My family didn't come to Brazil as slaves.
Mm-hmm.
But most of people that came to Brazil in Europe, because I mean, all that happened when I see that when Europeans came to Brazil, it sounds like any European, like say for example, anyone like, oh, the family of someone walking the streets here. That's not the case because at the time Europe was in serfdom as well. Most of Europeans they were serfs. They were working. They were linked to the land that they were owned by the landowner as well.
Yeah,
Serfdom was the system
I see.
in Europe as well. When serfdom was finished in Europe, the surplus of people that Europe had, they had to figure out where to send these people. Where could these people go? And they were ex-serfs that couldn't, like most of them uneducated,
Mhm.
Europe was going through a high level, a high speed process of industrialization,
Mhm.
and they had to find a place where to push all these surplus people there.
Mm.
So most of these people were sent to Brazil, for example, Brazil and other countries as well,
Yeah.
because they could do like, farm work. And there is a big, also again, a big difference of Serbs that have had, for example, knowledge about metallurgy, mm, carpentry, and other sorts of things, and Serbs that had only the knowledge of how to work the land and without producing any tool,
Mm.
you know. So, and then you have, for example, those Serbs that spared migrants that arrived in Brazil and could stay in the cities and make small businesses like shoes or clothes
Mhm.
or tools. And those migrants that arrived in the city in Brazil and say, what can you do? Oh, I can work in the land. Oh, okay, good. You go to that place and that place and that place and that place, separating families and so on. And so these were also, again, violence. And when serfdom was finished, let's say in Europe, and they had discarded all these people, like sent these people to America and Brazil and Mexico and many other parts, in Europe was the First World War.
Mm.
And again, like, you had people that had been suffering a lot. They didn't have anything to go, nowhere to go in Europe. Brazil,
Yeah.
Second World War, Jewish that had been persecuted in Europe, where to go? Brazil, Argentina,
Yeah.
so on. So all these countries, and then at one point, Brazil became something because it's like it's a difference between a nation and a state. The difference between a nation and a state is that the nation it belongs to an ethnical, racial, religious
Yeah. Yeah.
people.
Mhm.
Let's say this is the Jewish nation, or like Israel is today,
Yeah. Yeah.
or this is like the German nation, the French nation, the Italian nation, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, a state is different. A state is like an economical, political, bureaucratic s- place where different sort of people they live together. But after some time, when these people have been living together,
Mhm.
even if they had like different backgrounds, because they have been living together for a while, and this normally is separated by classes. Let's say if you are black, you come from a inferior class. If you are Latino, you come from another class. If you are blah blah, different classes, but yet they start recognize themselves as a nation,
Mm.
and other people start to recognize you as well as a nation, and that's what happens with Brazil.
I see.
Brazil is a place that has been created by violence, extreme violence,
Mhm.
extreme violence, with people that never had the opportunity to come out of this violence. It's still today. And like for example, today, like when places like Brazil talks about imperialism,
Mhm.
Europe says, "Oh no, this is your fault. It's your responsibility that you are corrupt. It's your responsibility that the Europe never sees its responsibility. It becomes like, oh, imperialism is just blah blah blah."
Mm.
But now today with Trump, Europe is for the first time experiencing imperialism. Like, for the first time, like imperialism is like something that happened because Trump says, listen, this Greenland thing,
Yeah.
I need it. But then people imagine like, oh, this is absurd. But Europeans have done it forever.
Mhm.
Europeans have been doing it. like for example, like for example, if you go to the Congo, you know, why is the Congo so poor if so many European companies are there becoming richer and richer and richer and richer? Why is Brazil so poor if European companies are there becomes richer and richer and richer and richer every time? So, you know, imperialism is a thing that is real, and for the first time, Europeans are feeling that in their skin and say, "Oh, Trump is an idiot." Yes, he's an idiot, but as idiot as his Europeans have been. And the Europeans, I'm not saying like again simple people.
Yeah, the
I'm talking about the idea. And today, because like Europe has been like for some time after Second World War, concentrating a lot of capital, a
mhm,
lot of capital. Like say, for example, Norway has concentrated a lot of capital, or like for example, let's say Greece.
mhm,
Greece was a country that was behind for
yeah,
a very long time. It has been behind for a very long time and victim of imperialism, like English imperialism, Ottoman imperialism, German imperialism, and so on and so on. But then Greece becomes part of the European Union.
mhm,
And then Greece has access to not money, but to credit. Exactly the same, like, for example, and then Greece has a huge debt to improve people's life and people start living better.
yeah,
People has access to better hospitals, to better schools, to better motorways, to better food and healthcare and so on, but debt, right? And then the debt goes cuckoo,
yes,
and then people start saying, "Oh, these Greeks, they are irresponsible. Look how irresponsible they are." But the same time that happened with Greece, the debt crisis, it happened with Iceland.
mm,
Iceland had the same problem, but no one called the Icelanders irresponsible. Oh, the Icelanders said, "Oh, we are not going to pay our debts." Oh, look, the Icelanders, they are so modern. They are so good. They are so intelligent. Wow, viva Iceland. This is racism.
yeah,
Why the southern Europeans have to be responsible, but the northern Europeans have to be and Icelanders, they were not doing anything better than with their money, the debt, than the Greek were. Basically, Icelanders were using their money even more irresponsibly than the Greek did, because the Greek they improved their schools, they improved their hospitals, they improved the roads, they improved like life qualities.
yeah,
Icelanders, they were just living like rich people,
yeah,
buying new cars, buying new flat televisions, whatever, buying houses, speculating, investing money abroad, and so on, traveling to Greece,
yeah,
you know what I mean? And this is racism, you
yeah.
know?
I see what you're saying.
And why would then Greece be so, "Oh, listen, you have to promise us that you are cutting money from hospitals to pay us back." And then Greece says, "Listen, okay, good, but if we cut the money from hospitals, maybe we have more violence, you
Yeah,
know? And that's exactly what happened.
mhm,
Golden Dome and so on,
yeah, yeah. I know.
you know? So that's what happened in Brazil. Brazil can say, "Listen, we have to use more money in the hospital." And then they will say, "Oh, no. If you have to promise us that you are going to cut money from your hospital so you can pay back your debt." Do you think that Italy will ever come out of the debt? Do you think that England will ever come out of the debt? That
Yeah,
France, Germany right now is collapsing
yeah,
because their debt is too much.
yeah, yeah,
Germany right now, American debt is unpayable. Is
mm,
unpayable. Unpayable.
yeah,
It's impossible to be paid. This is exactly what Elon Musk is using right now to say that we have a too high debt So we have to cut, you know, and Elon Musk is like closing agencies that people will suffer,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And this is right now, for the first time, people that have been saying that imperialism is just a fiction, they will start feeling like, for example, do you think that, for example, Norwegians today, that they are having difficulties to pay their mortgage? It's
Yeah.
a big problem in Norway today, the mortgage.
Okay. Okay.
Private credit in Norway, private debt in Norway
Mm-hmm.
today, credit card debt,
Mm-hmm.
is a big problem,
Yeah.
in Norway today. Um, Even if Norway has the pension fund that is really big. So the thing is, like, imperialism today is being tasted, and it doesn't taste well.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for example, they are talking like they have to close the schools in Norway. They have to reduce, like, for example, in Oslo right now, there are youth violence. It's growing youth violence in Oslo. What is happening exactly right now in Norway? They are cutting free extra hours school. Like the schools, they are cutting money from schools now.
Yeah.
In the exactly moment when youth violence is growing.
Yeah.
This should be exactly right now. Hey, listen, we have to invest. We have to have more hours that engaging kids in the school or whatever. But exactly when youth violence is growing, they're cutting the budget.
Yeah. And it's not
Yet people
not
are
not
saying,
only that. In other departments in the arts, like they're cutting so many funds.
no,
Like
arts, forget, man.
yeah,
There's
like but this is what I do, for example, and
mm,
it's like you need art. To me, it's like an extension of. It's the reflection of the quality of a society, the art that it produces to a great extent. And if you don't invest to that, I think you're making a great damage to the society itself.
yeah. Again, you are seeing the possible thing.
Mm.
Like, art is only possible with investment. I want, again, to invite you to think about the impossible.
Hmm.
You know, so how is art possible without investment?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying here this. It doesn't mean that I'm a conformist. No,
Hmm.
exactly on the contrary. As we started this conversation saying that, yeah, today more than ever, I'm an anarchist.
Hmm.
And that's it. Because when I say that, when you are an anarchist, you understand, you see the world different. You know, and that's the thing. Um, I am today, or more than ever,
Hmm.
more than ever.
I see.
And it's because I'm an anarchist that I'm looking, because people say, "La, this is impossible." Say, yes, absolutely, it's impossible. It's absolutely. I won't disagree with you, but I'm looking for the impossible.
Okay, let's close with that
Yeah.
then. Andre, thank you so much for
Thank you very much.
coming by. It was really interesting, actually. I'm gonna come to think those things. I let you speak mainly
And
because
they invite you to the workshop. I think it's gonna be interesting.
it's gonna be my last thing
I'm
here.
very happy that Magnus said that it's already like with I think 15 people or something like that.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I'm doing everything that we talked about.
Okay, well, you're actually gonna try to get into those things.
I
Okay,
will not try. I will go into those
okay.
things. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
That's that.
Yeah. Good.